Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Hope you guys are doing well.
We hope you're doing super well.
So we see the UN is saying the world is on the brink of the worst food crisis in 50 years.
Is it true, though?
It's probably more than 50 years, really. You know, what's building is this perfect storm, which we've talked about. Of course, there's so many agendas underway at the same time. And, you know, there's so much going on. When you see the earth changes, when you see the political turmoil, the social upheaval, you know, we have everything going on right now. Perfect storm.
It really, truly is. And it's been going on for a long time.
And honestly, you know, I do recognize that we have a lot of natural things going on. You know, we have a grand solar minimum, apparently natural. We have a magnetic pole reversal underway. And, you know, that's a fact. You know, we see the North Pole rapidly heading over towards Siberia. And, you know, I heard a few people when I said grand solar minimum apparently underway saying, what do you mean apparently? You know, well, recognize, and I've done videos on this before talking about the technology that would be available to, say, a society that was, say, 10,000 years ahead of us. You know, what would the technology look like? Now, I do believe there is what we would call, well, there's a lot of different names. Some people believe we entered the photon belt way back, and I do remember reading about that back in the 80s. That's when I was first exposed to that idea, and something rang true. Something clicked in me, and I remember pondering it while basically giving my daughter a bottle in the middle of the night and thinking about that, and then noticing that there was energy all around me and seeing waves of energy everywhere. The first time I really clearly noticed just what everything is made of, these waves of energy. And so many of us can see the life force now, and more people all the time that we're talking to can see the life force.
Yeah, they can. And it's really interesting how our energy bodies that are close to us, like within 10 inches, is getting thicker. And you know what I was thinking about is, where does one energy body stop and another start? It's pretty continuous, which is interesting.
That's part of this illusion of separateness, because, you know, we're really not separate. Actually, the biggest hidden secret is all are one. You know, again, we can view it as cells in a body. You're not just one cell. You're trillions of cells. And, you know, there's 10 times as many things that are not you living in you than are you. And you couldn't survive without them in the physical body. So, you know, it's all about harmony, and it's all about a greater understanding of this reality that we are in.
It is. You know, it's really interesting how things work, and as much information that they don't tell us, I think we're doing good figuring it out on our own.
So I was talking to David Devine the other morning, yesterday morning for a while at DAP 2030, awesome channel. And we were talking about, and I'm going to get into this, I think, in a future video, not too distant future, the fact that there's so much more water locked up in the mantle than there is in the oceans. And we've heard about the idea of a mud flood and liquefaction. And there's so much going on right now. And we were talking about the potential for this and something like this happening in the near future. What do the elite know that we don't know? And Ben at Suspicious Observers did a video, I think it was today or yesterday, and he was talking about the trillions that are missing, and that it might be 10 times that, you know, amount. Do you remember when Rumsfeld came out and said, oh, by the way, there's so many $1 trillion missing, we don't know where they went? Well, you know, we now know about Space Force. You know, it's coming right out in the open. And then if you followed people like Corey Goode and David Wilcock, you know, no matter what you believe about them, there's too many people that have come out, from Stephen Greer and, you know, Alex Collier, and we could go on with all the people, Phil Schneider, that have come out talking about the high technology that we have, the interaction with extraterrestrial and interdimensional beings. we're way more advanced than we think. We're at least 100 years ahead technology-wise. And, so are a lot of these quote-unquote missing dollars going to build a fleet that's going to get people off planet when the event happens? Perhaps. That very well can be. There have been massive events in the past, apparently on regular intervals, that completely restart the planet and send it back to a stone age. Yet there are beings with advanced technology as well. Beings that we take to be gods, but really aren't gods, and we could see this. This happens cyclically. So, are they going into the earth in their deep underground military bases, preparing for something massive coming, perhaps like the Chan Thomas story talks about? If there is going to be crustal displacement, and there's strong evidence for that, if we look at, just the Hawaiian Islands, as I've talked about before, it, to me, shows evidence of crustal displacement. The plume stays in place and the crust moves. And it has moved to a big degree in the past. Velikovsky, Hapgood thought so. I got to say, I think so too. And there might be even more than that going on. So if we're going to see, winds in excess of 300 miles an hour and tsunamis that are going to be mile or two high, where are you going to go besides somewhere deep underground and hidden, very strongly, fortified? Or, as we read from the Sumerian tablets and translations of them, the Anunnaki, when they knew the event was going to happen, got off planet and watched it from above. And some of the more benevolent ones wailed and were really upset at the loss of all that life. And while others perhaps, that found mankind annoying, like Enlil, didn't wail so much. But are we on the brink of something like that again? And when we look at Agenda 2030, now 2030 to me, that feels like a big year. It does. Here we are in 2020, and I know 2020 is obviously a big year. I think 2021 will be an escalation. I think 2024 into 2025 is going to be the peak of some of the things. But I do think that there are bigger events that probably won't happen until somewhere around 2030. Or if we look at Douglas Vogt and Diehold, he says, I think 2044, 2045 for his solar flash, which is the sun going nova. Any way you look at it, huge, massive changes underway.
Yeah, and everything leading up to it too. It's like when you think, wow, can it get much worse? And here we are. We get a little worse, and we get a little more chaos.
And you see Sydney's coastal ecosystems suffer once in a generation mass mortality event in Australia. And this is the worst in decades. Dry spell followed by fires and storms, once in a generation event. We have had these type of events going on across the globe. And it is a perfect storm. But you know what too? The planet will bounce back, and bounce back fast after all these things. It will. Once humanity is no longer poisoning it, once the system is no longer destroying it, it will bounce back very fast. Meanwhile, we are in the midst of a massive storm. It's an obvious, perfect storm of all these events, some natural, some manufactured, in my opinion. Again, it's just my opinion. We all have one. Just like the famous saying, right? We see severe hailstorm causes major damage to agriculture and properties. This is in Morocco. I don't really think the globe is going to look like it does now in, say, 20, 30 years. I think it's going to be massive changes by then. So here you see over 22,500 acres, 27 different communities, severely damaged. There is most definitely a huge famine on the horizon starting to take shape. And here you see torrential rains triggering deadly flash flooding, and this is in the Czech Republic. And when you add into it things like the lockdown that we had, like the economic conditions that are just being decimated, and that, to me, looks to be more of a manufactured thing, obviously. it's like aggravating and adding insult to injury with everything that's going on. Worsening drought affects nearly half of North China's Inner Mongolia. There's reasons why the kings of the East would be in motion, so to speak, and talking in biblical terms. We can see how everything is going about, and there's going to be a grab for resources. And, bringing up Dave over at DAP 2030s talked about that. And he says, China knows the history more than anybody because they've kept better records. And they understand where we are in many ways. And then the powers that be want to throw their system to be headquartered over in China, as we know as well, because it is most definitely a very totalitarian system. And here we have asteroid 2020 LD, flew past us at 0.8 lunar distance, and this is the largest one within 1 lunar distance since 2011. Many people have had visions of things coming in from the sky. We've seen a ton of things up in the sky. We saw a ton of ships in the sky the other night, which, again, they might very well be our secret space program / Space Force, or maybe they're somebody else watching the show, because, boy, there's a show to watch here.
There sure is. Mm-hmm.
And the volcanic activity is increasing. So, we are moving into a deeper cycle now, and we're going to probably see some volcanoes that have been quiet really starting to come to life and get very, very active. And so this is over in Japan, and they're not alone. We see the seismovolcanic crisis near Mayotte is continuing for the 3rd year in a row, and we're talking about the potential there for perhaps a whole new landmass to develop, perhaps super volcano. As we said, the globe is not going to look the same. And here we see Sangay Volcano in Ecuador covers several cities in ash. It has been active, but now the wind patterns have changed. And, of course, we know that Ecuador, according to all the news reports, suffered tremendously from this plague upon the land. And now the ash flow is interrupting things as well. As you see here, there is some videos for you guys to take a look at as usual. So we have a shallow 5.7 hit southern Iran, very active area as well. USGS issues a yellow alert for shaking-related fatalities. So the depth is very shallow, only 1.2 miles. That's super shallow. The Earth is going to be reworked. It most definitely is. Excuse me there. And then once again, we have some brush fires burning, and recognize that we're heading into that time of year again. And everything is more complicated because of, obviously, the lockdown, the protests. You name it, we got it.
More chaos, you guys. Hold on to your pants.
So this is Bel Air hillside, you see, on fire. It's going to be an interesting ride. The last 6 months of this year is going to be very interesting, to say the least. And we have anomalous June snow in the Rockies. Snowplows deployed in Utah and Wyoming. Foot of snow in Idaho and Montana. 2 weeks away from summer solstice. Adelaide wakes up to its coldest June morning since 1944. The sun is starting to wake up. It's starting to. So be aware of that too, because, again, that's going to increase the likelihood of the grid going down if we do get that big coronal mass ejection. But will it be that, or will it be something different? Are we going to be facing perhaps an EMP? We have it all going on right now, guys, which again means that we need to be prepared. And here you see Chinese scientists conclude that urban heat island effect is responsible for much of climate warming. And again, Robert Felix, not by fire, but by ice. But again, too, the book that even interested me more than that was the huge evolutionary leaps that come out at times when the magnetosphere is in decline, because there's so much more cosmic radiation coming in, triggering mutation. So you and I, we are mutating. Everything is changing on this planet. And, we've had people now, start to actually show 3 strands of DNA. If you remember that little boy, Alfie, and there's others. There's a lot more others. There are reasons for testing and what they're looking for. I think they're looking for the mutations, which they know are coming, which is us awakening. And so we have the 10 best medicinal herbs and their health benefits to grow.
I love this stuff. And we have lavender, which is like one of my super favorites. I had a huge lavender bush, gonna grow another one. And we have chamomile. Oh my gosh, that's really, really good stuff too. I love chamomile.
Yeah, I planted it up in Connecticut and Mass when I was living there, and I'd have such a beautiful patch of chamomile and sitting outside in the sun. All of a sudden the wind would just shift a little and you'd get that beautiful fragrance coming your way. Very pleasing, makes a great tea, very, very stress reducing. Other benefits as well. Sage, well, the desert's loaded with sage, and the burros eat sage in droves, and they look pretty beefy and healthy for just pretty much living mostly off of sage.
They really truly are, and I'm growing that stuff too. I love that kind.
Lemon balm as well. And ginger is magnificent. Absolutely love ginger.
Really, really good for the tummy.
And rosemary's a favorite too. Man, there's nothing like just chopping up some cloves of garlic, putting some rosemary in there and some nice olive oil, make yourself some nice fresh Italian bread, and just dip away.
That sounds so yummy. We're going to do that now.
Yeah, I'm getting really hungry. Peppermint as well. Very soothing. It has so many uses. Great for clearing out sinuses as well. Yarrow and turmeric. Again, turmeric, another rhizome. Turmeric and ginger, indispensable. So many health benefits. So guys, we also want to let you know that you got to get out there and exercise. A single session of exercise alters 9,815 molecules in our blood. And, in a positive direction. We need to be prepared. Now, whether there is a second wave of this pestilence plague that's going to hit us or not, it's imperative that we boost our immune systems. So exercise every day, get your blood pumping. It's amazing what it'll do for you.
It is completely amazing. And we do want to say thank you to Grant, Christopher, Greta, and Damon for joining our Patreon family.
And we had a request for a $5 tier, so we put that in there as well. And, thank you guys so much for your support on Patreon or on Ko-Fi. And on Ko-Fi, you can also support on a monthly basis as well. It's up to you. You could do a one-time or you could do monthly. So Patreon and Ko-Fi are basically the same like that. And if it wasn't for those two things, we would be greeting you at Walmart right now. And not that there's anything wrong with that, just saying that. And we've seen so many of our compatriots, so to speak, people like Rex, over at Leak Project, who now they demonetized his channel as well. And while I'm thinking about it, Rex did a beautiful thing along with Billy Carson and a couple of others, doing a tribute to Gerald Clark. And so Gerald Clark passed on recently, and we just want to again express our thanks for everything he did to share with us everything about the Anunnaki that he learned, and about all the hidden things that he's uncovered as well. So we send our condolences to his family and loved ones and friends, and give thanks for everything that he did to help promote understanding and insight into what's really going on the planet.
And he really was instrumental in my awakening too. Gerald Clark, great guy.
So much love heading his way, and I'm sure he's watching us now from the other side and cheering us on, saying don't give up.
Absolutely. God bless and namaste.
Take care, guys. We love you. God bless and namaste.